All of you are able to see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So just a recap of last week's or the couple of weeks session. So we were trying to understand that all our actions are driven either by the mind or by the intellect. When our actions are driven by mind, we always tend to be emotional, and when our actions are driven by intellect, we tend to be in a discriminative state where we reason, think, and do the things. And above all of us, the body, mind, and intellect, above everything is the life force or the spirit that enlivens us. If the life force or spirit is not there, we will not be alive. So that is the enliving principle within us. And body, mind, and intellect are the three instruments with which we contact the world. The hierarchy is like this: intellect should control the mind, and mind should drive the body for doing the actions. As long as this hierarchy is maintained, where our intellect controls the mind and mind drives the body for the actions, we will not have any problems, we will not have any disturbances, or we will not have a state of discomfort or mental disturbance. When this doesn't happen, when mind overpowers the intellect, or when mind takes over the control and doesn't consult intellect for doing our actions, that's where all the problem starts. And so that was the starting point for Arjuna also, where he had become emotional and asked for the advice from Lord Krishna, which started the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. And also the next we saw that we always have to feel, but consult our intellect to do the things, meaning that intellect and mind go hand in hand without any clashes. Then there will be no fight that happens inside our mind. We also saw a short video which explains the difference between the intellect and the intelligent. Intelligence is not enough to lead a life without sadness. Happiness doesn't come with intelligence. We all understood that it's the intellect that drives the mind in the right way, gives us peace of mind and intellect. And we saw an example where we had a scientist who was world renowned, but still he had lot of weaknesses in his personal life. He has lost his health, and he was impatient, and he had many weaknesses, which Mr. Parthasarathi has explained. So for all of us to realize is that to be peaceful, to have a peace of mind, what we need to develop is our intellect. What we need to do is to strengthen our intellect. So, through the learnings of Bhagavad Gita chapter wise, we are going to learn the tools and techniques in a structured way, which will help us to discover ourselves better and at the same time strengthen the intellect and control the mind. The first verse started off with Dhritarashtra asking Sanjaya what happened in the battlefield, what is happening to his sons and his brothers' sons. So we analyzed his character in the way that he is blind in nature, but the blind doesn't physically imply his blindness. He was blind mentally also because of his ignorance. He could see the difference between his sons and his brothers' sons. So that is the analysis that we understood. It's not just the external blindness, but ignorance is blinding by the mind. And we analyzed couple of characters like Duryodhana. Then we talked about Gandhari and Dhritarashtra. Here Gandhari was considered as intellect and Dhritarashtra being considered as mind. When we have mind and the intellect which is able to see and guide the mind gets blinded by itself, then it cannot do any kind of help to the mind which is blind in nature. And that's exactly happened in the story of Mahabharata, where the physical blindness of Dhritarashtra, because of his physical blindness, Gandhari herself blinded and she could not guide him as well as his sons. That's the reason why the Kauravas did not get a proper guidance when they were in the early stages of upbringing. And that's the reason for Duryodhana to have all the negative qualities filled with arrogance, jealousy, and all sorts of negative things, not only with his cousins, but also with everyone. Then the second verse started off where Sanjaya explains that Duryodhana approaches his master and asks him that, or he starts telling about the formations of the armies. And the first verse he starts telling him is that, have you seen the army that is arrayed between you and which is headed by Drishtadyumna, who is your uh, student? So the point that we try to analyze here is that Duryodhana's state of mind, he had an internal fear of losing the battle. He was arrogant, and also he had a lot of inferiority complex, always feeling that the other person has more. Even though he has a lot of things, he is self-sufficient, but still he had that inferiority complex, which always made him feel jealous about others' things, others' possessions, and everything. We also went to the story of him feeling jealous about Pandava's new built kingdom and everything. And we also understood that he is like a snake, being that his mindset is being he's poisoned. And such a mindset, if you take it to any place, even you take it to a temple, even you take it to Himalayas, it's not going to change because it's fed with poison. The only way that a person with such a mindset can change is only by himself. No one else in this world can change him. Even the God, in spite of thinking to change, cannot help in changing. So, this is a reflection point that we have to change our own mindset, and we always have to look internally to see first or reflect upon ourselves for any kind of actions or for any kind of things that happen to us instead of first externalizing the things. And we also understood that the mindset of a person can be determined by his or her choice of words. So, the how did we understand here that Duryodhana was was jealous, was inferiority complex, is by his usage of words through Dronacharya. The way he used is that he was very arrogant. He was actually trying to trigger anger in Dronacharya. And this one, I think every one of us will experience that certain kind of words we use, even though it has a normal meaning, the usage of verbal usage of words trigger emotions in different ways. So this was the verse 1 and 2 that we saw. I think 1, 2, and 3. So today we will be seeing the other verses. अत्र शूरा महेश्वासा भीमार्जुनसमायुधि युयुधानो विराटश्च द्रुपदश्च महारथः दृष्टकेतुश्चेकितानः काशीराजश्च वीर्यवान् पुरुजित् कुन्तिभोजश्च शैब्यश्च नरपुङ्गवः युधामन्युश्च विक्रान्तः उत्तमौजाश्च वीर्यवान् सौभद्रो द्रौपदेयाश्च सर्व एव महारथाः. Let's see the actual meaning of these three shlokas. In the shloka number 4, this is the Sanjaya's narration. He tells that Duryodhana, when he goes to his master Dronacharya, he is explaining this. Here we have all the mighty warriors who are equivalent to Bhima and Arjuna. And who are they? They are Yudhana, Virata, Drupada, and also a lot of other archers who are considered as Maharathas. Maharathas are like a cadre of warriors who are on the top. And next he says, there are warriors like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, and also the valiant kings of Kasi, Purujit, Kuntiboja, Shaibya, who are all best among the men. And in the next verse he says, they also have Yudamanyu, Uttamauja, and son of Subhadra, and also the sons of Draupadi. All of them are like the divisional commanders, and this is what he says. So when you see this explanation to Dronacharya, can any of you think, is there anything wrong in what he is explaining, or what is the context in which he is saying? Does anyone feel anything, or what do you feel in what Duryodhana has explained to Dronacharya?
He is telling all the great warriors so that they can form their own strategy to face the war.
Okay. Any other things that strike your mind with these explanations? So it's like analyzing the opponents. So anyone have any other kind of views on this? Okay. See, this is the army size of Pandavas and Kauravas. From the very look of it, Kauravas had almost double the number of soldiers or double the number of battalion army when compared to Pandavas. Still, Duryodhana feels Pandavas are mightier, Pandavas have more strength. And this clearly shows his inferiority complex here. Just by the numbers or the number of commander in chiefs they have, the number of Maharathis, Ati Maharathis, and all that Maharathas, whichever is said, the cadre of people. It just shows his inferiority complex. So if we have to succeed in life, we always have to follow this. This is called a SWOT analysis in the modern terms, where we discover our strengths, we discover our weaknesses, we discover our opportunities, and we discover the threats, and then start doing a thing. This doesn't mean we have to apply this just in a kind of a professional atmosphere or only for professional thing. This can be adapted even in our cooking, in our daily chores, whatever we are doing. This what analysis can be applied to analyze ourselves when we are going to do any kind of action. This is the analysis tool. So we can say that Duryodhana was trying to do a kind of analysis. But what is the thing here is that whenever we are acting, the first thing we have to do is to analyze ourselves. Without analyzing ourselves, if you go on looking at others, you will never find time to analyze yourself. That's what happened to him. He did not analyze himself first. He started analyzing his opposition. And people who are good and who are keen to succeed in the right way will always think of themselves first and then the opposition. We certainly have to have an idea about our opponents or against whom we are playing with or whom we are competing with. But it is to be on a healthy side where we know their strengths and try to build up our strengths and overcome our weaknesses. But it should not become that we keep on watching them all the time and just miss upon our strengths and miss upon our weaknesses. Because of this quality, even having a mighty army, Duryodhana was not able to, or the Kauravas were not able to win the battle. Seeing the battalion numbers, what should be a reason for Pandavas to win? Kauravas had a mighty army, almost double the army they had. What Pandavas had was a strong conviction in good and belief in good and a good mindset. What Kauravas lacked was the mindset. They all had that inferiority complex, particularly Duryodhana, which made him lose the battle. So we try to analyze ourselves for each and every activity that we do, first on ourselves and second on others. As I said, the example, this can be used even for cooking. So after learning this, I always try to analyze even cooking. This one, why I gave you as an example is this is one of the dish I actually find it very challenging. And because many times when we make it, it always breaks. So when we ascertain the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I always make myself ready with a kind of some kind of shield to protect myself in case it breaks. I can be always having something to shield myself. So this comes because we do an analysis. This is just a simple example, and I request every one of you to also analyze this. Even you can teach your kids to always analyze this point. They can write down in a piece of paper when they're going to do a work, when they're doing their problems, or when they're going for exams. What is their strengths? What is their weaknesses? And particularly opportunities doesn't apply to most of the things here, because we are not going in a kind of business or expansion kind of thing, but we can always have threats. Like, what could be the threats, what could be the stimuli? For example, for all of us, when we are working in the middle, if the kids come and talk something emotionally, we might get distracted from that. So distraction from the work is also a threat for the work not to be completed. So if you are mindful about all the threats, you will actually be prepared to face the threats in a better way than to distract from what you were actually doing. Any questions in this, or anything you want to share with this SWOT analysis?
This is a good example, Abhita. CDI always brings in everybody. I'm sure will have some experience. At least for me, first time it exploded, and that shield I
Yeah.
could relate, because after that, that's a constant. Like a warrior, we always have that shield, that
Yeah,
lead.
yeah. So yeah, so this seems very simple, but this why I'm emphasizing is this analysis should start within us. So when this becomes a habit, we tend to know our strengths better. When you tend to know your strengths better, you will perform better. The problem is we don't know our own strengths. We always underestimate us. Only when you try to write it down in a paper or talk to yourself, that's when you know your strengths, because what other people tell about you is only an opinion. You only know what you are. You should not go with the opinions of others, because they do not know what you have gone through, they do not know your potential. So it's always a good thing to have this SWOT analysis running at the back of our minds, to at least the major activities, like once a day, twice a day, to activities that we do, which will actually habituate in ourselves, and we will plan better. When this comes in, right, you will be a very good planner, at the same time a good executor as well. So this is an kind of a small story kind of thing. There was a circus going on, and there was an elephant, which the master of the elephant made the elephant to stand on the stool as it has been shown. Then the person, one of the elder person over there, went to three kids and asked three different kids. So first question was posed to Indian kid, and they asked, like, why is the elephant standing like this on the stool? And the Indian child replies, oh, this is the God's grace. This is like Lord Vinayaka's grace, that elephant has some miraculous powers. So that's why it's able to stand like that. Okay. So second, he goes to a Russian kid and asked, why is this elephant standing like that? Why do you think is the elephant standing like that? Then the Russian kid says, it is afraid of his master. It's afraid because his master is strict, and if he doesn't listen to his master, he might do something. Then, okay, then he went to an American kid and asked, what is the reason, do you think? Then the American kid said, the elephant doesn't know its potential. It just believes it doesn't have any strength because the master has the stick in his hand. And that's the reason it's just acting to his instructions. Once it knows its potential, the whole circus can go for a toss, because elephant is mighty. The power of elephant is mighty. Whatever the master might do to stop it, he will not be able to stop it. Human power can not stop the elephant's power. So what do you understand from this? The different answers from different kids?
Yeah, analyzing our strengths is really important at any situation.
Yeah, analyzing the strength is important, yes. And also the first mindset, when we say Indian mindset, it's not actually to point out Indians, but it's to actually say the religious based mindsets or the beliefs that we have. We don't go into the facts, or we don't analyze things, but just say statements because of certain kind of mindset that we have formed. And the second kind of thing, when we say about Hitler, it is just to tell about the people who were under the dictatorship. So the people who were under the dictatorship always thinks in the way that they have to follow the instructions. So it's a Russian mindset. And when you come to the open status or the open mindset, and when we say it's Americans, when we say that they're the open mindset, they always, the well-developed countries normally develop faster because they know their potential and they know how to tap on their potential to grow better. So this is not to take into any country or any person into account. The analysis for us is that even though a person comes and tells we don't have the capacity or we don't have the strength to do, there is nothing for us to feel about it. We should realize our potential, we should realize our strengths, and that's the way we can progress. So that is the point of analysis that we need to understand from this particular example. And the first Garner, yeah.
But due to some dependency, at times we might be able to we need to follow some instructions, right, Abhita? So in that situation, we have to directly follow the instructions without thinking what we need to do, like analyzing. So there are some situations which will come like that as well, right?
So it depends, Shubha. Can you tell me a situation in proper? Because this one, the thing that I'm telling to is to never underestimate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
To always know your things. So I'm not very clear in which context you are trying to ask this question. So if you can give me an example, I can better explain you how to tackle with that situation.
Abhita, can I tell one example? Yeah. Sorry, Shubha.
Yeah, Renu.
If you have,
Yeah,
you plus tell, then I'll go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead. I'm just thinking.
Okay. I'll just give an example. Okay, the life what I am leading. Okay. So we come all the way from India to different countries. Okay. And few are working, few are not working. So the women who are not working, they stay at home, and the husbands try to try to control, and I don't say control, but dominance kind of thing. They say whatever he does, whatever he says, we have to follow. And even though it's wrong, or even though we don't like it, we have to say, okay, I'll do it. I mean, they don't, the strengths what we have, they don't really allow us to exhibit or, do it. They say, you don't know anything. I go out and work. This is a situation. So you just stay at home. You take care of home. Like that, we tend to listen from husbands. So in this kind of situations, how to come out and how to say that, this is my strength. Okay, don't, suppress like that. Listen to my words. My capability is different. My strength is different. How can we tackle such kind of situations? Because in this situation, we are dependent on him completely. We can't go anywhere. We can't learn anything by ourselves, or, take a step and, go out. So whatever it is, we have to stay at home. So what is the situation in that kind of situations? What is the solution?
In this kind of situations, the solution is, see, the other side is ignorant. How we saw that Duryodhana's character, and when I was saying that Duryodhana comes and talks all things in nonsense. Now, the weapon that Dronacharya takes is silence. So there is no point in talking to a person who is ignorant, who is not ready to listen. If a person is if a person is understanding, he would have understood it and have given you that kind of status. But if that person is not in that mindset of acceptance and that person is in the state of ignorance, we cannot do much to change that person. The only thing that we can work towards is not to culprit our own internal environment, in the sense that whatever we can do, we do it. It's not like taking like a thing that I have this much strength, but I am not able to do this because of this. See, given this situation, I cannot exhibit my strength. Let me do what I can do now without any kind of negative feelings within me. Right. Because we have that limited opportunity. As I always say, that cricket pitch, if your pitch is not good, you cannot bat. You cannot get out and come out. Correct. Your getting out and coming out is not a solution. So what best we can do is stick there with not corrupting your internal environment. Don't put the poison into your mind, which comes into your body through your hormonal disturbances.
Correct.
Have patience, because always good wins. Always good has its day. It's just the amount of time it takes to reach there. Just be patient, as we see from Dronacharya now, that he doesn't reply and how he takes the conversations forward. Be patient. At the same time, don't corrupt yourself. And don't underestimate yourself. Don't go into a stage of depression.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
underestimation sometimes make us like it increases the dependency, and yeah, that is one of the point which we need to understand. We should never
Yeah, so I'm
underestimate
saying
ourselves.
you have strengths. It's just that you're not able to exhibit your strengths at the current point. It doesn't mean you're not exhibiting your strength. You are not having strength, or you're not strengthless. You have strength. You just wait for a proper opportunity to prove yourself. See, only two things. When you have to go together, then this has to be there. If not, you have to separate. Only two things if you don't want to have. So when the choice is ours to be here, then let's be here without corrupting ourselves.
Okay.
Okay. Any other clarifications you need?
Thanks, Abhita.
Okay. So this is the words that the Governor General of British. You know that India was under the British rule, and when they left, when they gave us independence and left, Lord Warner Hastings had told that we are leaving India. We have taken many things from India, but what will stay with us throughout to help London develop, or what will stay with us towards, is the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. This book has been a miraculous book, and this is the book that is going to help even us in the development process. So this book is the only book, he says, that is above all the religions of mankind, because the way it is based, or the theme on the basis of Bhagavad Gita, is just humanity. It just addresses all the human beings in the world. There are no conditions, there are no clauses. As it applies to you, if you do all these things, it applies to you. If you don't do all these things, it applies to you. It has a straight point. If you do, you get this. If you don't do, you. And who is that you? You can be anyone.
2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. அப்பா மம்மி ஆல் அந்த ரூம்ல போறது, டாய்லெட் பாக்குறது. You dodge.
Hello, can someone please go on mute? I don't know who it is. So any questions in the last 3 shlokas, where I told about that we have to first analyze ourselves and not analyze our opponents first, the self-analysis part? If not, we will go to the next 3 shlokas.
Yeah, we can go to next 3 shlokas.
Okay. We will look at the next 3 shlokas. Asmakantu vishishtaye tanibodadvijottama nayaka mama sainyasya sanyartam tan bravimite bhavan bhishmascha karnascha krupascha samitinjayah Ashwathama vikarnascha saumadattathaaiva cha अन्ये च बहवः शूराः मदर्थे त्यक्तजीविताः नानाशस्त्रप्रहरणाः सर्वे युद्धविशारदाः. So the next 3 shlokas comes like this. So the narration of Sanjaya goes on. Duryodhana described about the Pandavas' army. Now he comes to his army. He started saying, okay, for your information, Vijottama is his guru, and he tells, let me tell you who are all qualified in our military force. And he says, yourself, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, and are all victorious in the war. We have never faced any kind of failures. Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Saumadatta are also in the battle on our side. And then he says, there are many more heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them were equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in military science. And the analysis that we are going to do here is that the first shloka he said, now coming to the next. So when you say next is something, it gives that is the secondary importance. So what was the primary importance for Duryodhana? It was Pandava's army. Now he says, okay, now look at here, our army. So the word now here indicates that his army is of secondary importance for him. After telling this, he just says few people's names. He was not even able to tell the names of his army, the person's names, as he has told about Pandava's army. He just tells like 4 or 5 of them and says etc., etc., etc. Sataivacha is etc. So they are all other people. So he says no, 4 people. You are there, Bhishma is there, Karna is there, Krupa is there, Ashwatthama, Vikarra, and the son of Domadatta. After that, he was not able to tell any names, and he says everyone are there. And finally, he comes and says, all these heroes are why are here? They are ready to lay down their lives for him, it seems. He says they are all Tyakta Jivitaha. They are ready to lay down their lives. For what? For him. Anyecha. So, Madartha is for himself. So, he wants to lay down they all want to lay down their lives for the sake of Duryodhana. And that's why they are here in this battlefield with all the weapons. And they are also, he says, they are all Yuddha Visharada, meaning that they are all experts in the military science. So what do you think is there to analyze here?
Nobody is following their intellect.
Here actually that doesn't come. Among this conversation that he told about, here there is no action at all taken till now. See, when the intellect comes into play, when there is an action.
Okay.
Now we don't see any action. They're just talking. He's just saying about his own army. And from the way he describes his army,
of their own army.
Yeah. So what do you feel in the Duryodhana's words? What kind of thing he is trying to bring out?
He's egoistic.
Yeah, he's egoistic, definitely.
He's trying to underestimate his own team.
Yeah,
because
and that comes because of his inferiority complex.
Inferiority complex, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Insecure feeling that what will happen, even though so many people are there.
The people who are insecure, the insecure from inside. See, that's the right point to catch, Renu. He says they are all ready to give their lives for the sake of me. So his insecure feelings, he doesn't show in words directly the insecure words, but the words he says shows his insecurity. The way he is explaining things. And this is the verse 4 to 6 explanation about Pandava army and 7 to 9 about his own army. And we will see the third shloka, the third explanation of his army. He told, all these people are ready to lay down their lives for my sake. So when you say they are laying their lives for Duryodhana's sake, they are actually dying for the sake of a person. What are they doing? They are dying for the sake of Duryodhana. And what did all the Pandava supporters support? Did they support Pandavas or did they support the good?
It's for the good.
They supported the good, yeah.
Yeah, they supported a good. And good is a cause or an ideal to be supported. And when Kauravas, even though knowing it is not good, they supported because all these persons, in a way, including Dronacharya, Bhishma, everyone, knowing because they were in one way or the other benefited by Duryodhana. Just as a token of gratitude, they got clouded by that emotion of gratitude, and that's the reason they took the path to support them. And we also understood that supporting a bad cause is equally same as being bad. The bad company corrupts good character. So they should have not done that, but they did that. So this is a modern analogy that we can see. In our Indian independence, we know people supported Mahatma Gandhi for the sake of independence. And during the time of Salt Satyagraha, what happens is the Britishers used to do the lathi charge. So a person goes to the sea, takes the salt in his hands. They used to break his head, almost like breaking his head with the lathi charge. Then two of them will come. Before getting the beating, they will then take the person to the side of the shore, apply some medicine, then come, take the beating, and again some other people will come. And what happened till the end is that the Britishers' hand pained because of beating the people, And these people were tirelessly coming and getting the beatings, going there, lying down, getting the medicine, again coming and going. And when you ask everyone or each any one of them, why are you supporting this guy who is just telling you to support non-violence? They said that they have conviction in good, they have belief in good, and they are not supporting Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was a person who drove, but what did all the people support is an ideal or the goal for getting India independence. So when people are supporting a goal or driven by goals, the way they stand in the history is different. And when we come to the second person who is here, who is Hitler, we know that he was a great dictator. There were a lot of people under him, under his dictatorship. And there is a story they'll tell. When Hitler was in his office, one of the other foreigner was very much surprised. How can people accept Hitler's words or just do anything? Whatever he says, even though it is difficult, even though it is dangerous, how are they able to do that? So he asked, how is it possible for you? He said, like, you want to see what all my people can do for me? And he said, one of his fellow person who is sitting there, he was there on the top, like 20th floor or something, and he asked that person to go jump out of the window. One person came, he said, as jumped out of the window. Then he called another second person, and the second person also just jumped out of the window. Third person came. Then the person who asked the question to Hitler stopped the third person and asked, why are you doing this? Are you mad? If that fellow tells you to jump out of the window, why are you doing this? And that what was the fellow's reply is, it's better to die than to serve this person, accepting his words and doing what he does. Death is better than serving this person. You understand the difference of supporting a person, that to a person with a bad intention, and working for a good cause. This is the difference that we have to see. The analogy here is that the people who are supporting Duryodhana is like the people who were supporting Hitler. So it will not stand for a long time, and that too, if it is for a bad cause, for sure it will not stand for a long time. He never said he is good and people are supporting the good. He said they are supporting me. They are all ready to give their lives for my sake. And every time when we see good and bad, starting from the age when the creation started till now in the form of stories, what we know is that the number of good people are less, the number of bad people are more. But still, it's always the victory of good over evil that has been emphasized and learned from our childhood till now. The only difference that I can point out currently in the way that good people are in these modern times is that in olden days, whoever good people were, they always had a belief and conviction that good always wins. When they see something bad happening, they used to go condemn the bad, and they were able to say that this is bad, you don't do it. But modern days, the thing is that even though you see people making bad, the good people are always like they want to just be secure. They don't want to go out much and show their conviction on good because they might get into problems. But in the olden days, people never thought that they will get into problems if they go and stop the bad things or just put an full stop to the things that are happening bad. But in this modern world, what's happening is bad people or the people who are doing not good things, who doesn't do good things, do the things with greater conviction on them that nothing is going to happen to me. I will do this and still I'll be out. That is the say that's in the current modern time. So what we have to go back is teach our kids the belief and conviction in good and teach them that they should stand for good and not for bad. So any questions in these four? Do you have any questions? Or any clarifications needed?
No, Abita.
I think I'm good. Yeah. Just thinking what all you said, our strengths, underestimating the situations, just thinking, revising all of them.
Okay.
As of now,
And
nothing,
this is
Abita.
okay. And this is also a very point to note that people who, that's also for us, when we say here Hitler externally and for Mahatma Gandhi for an ideal or goal, this is the way from Mahabharata to external world. When you want to apply this internally, for each and every action you do, you think if you are doing the action for yourself and your family, meaning that it's a selfish action. So whenever you do a selfish action, you cannot be happy for a long term. And when you work for an ideal, it apart from you and your family, you're working for a larger thing like a society, to a nation. The happiness you get and the happiness you sustain is more. So this can be applied even internally as well. Your own actions, whether it's a selfless action or it's a selfish action or it's an unselfish action. I'll tell this one shloka and we will end for today. अपर्याप्तं तदस्माकं बलं भीष्माभिरक्षितं पर्याप्तं त्विदमेतेषां balam bhimabhirakshitam. So he's saying in this shloka, the aparyaptam is like a very vast, our army is vast, and who is the balam is the strength. Who is the strength of our army? It is Bhishma. Why he's saying Bhishma is because Bhishma is the commander-in-chief for their army, and normally Senadipati is like the security guard or the security head for the whole battlefield, and they will follow the instructions. So who is the commander-in-chief? And second line he says that the Pandavas army and the strength of Pandavas army is Bhima. He says that in the second line, whereas our forces are protected by Bhishma and their forces are protected by Bhima. And let's see this, why I'm taking here is, see. So he talks about Bhishma there and says that our army is protected by Bhima. That's Bhishma, sorry, the Kauravas army. That's right, because Bhishma is the commander-in-chief. But in Pandavas army, who is the commander-in-chief that you see from the slide?
Drishtadyumna.
Yeah, Drishtadyumna is the commander-in-chief. Yeah. If he had to point out someone from Pandavas army as a strength, it should be either commander-in-chief, who should be Drishtadyumna, or the technical leader, who should be Arjuna, or the of this, who is Lord Krishna. He never said three of them. And Bhima is not inside the picture anywhere. And why does he tell the Bhima's name here? Do you get any clues why he tells?
Because
Bhima?
I mean, based on the Mahabharata story, he has a separate oath taken. Bhima has taken a oath that he'll kill all the 100 Kauravas, right? So he wanted to target him first.
He has to target. It's not targeting him first, but his only enemy is Bhima.
Bhima. Okay.
Duryodhana's enemy is Bhima. He is not. The thing that we need to understand is he is so analytical when it comes to his army. When it comes to the other army, he is not analytical. The word Bhima, which he says, shows that his complete enmity upon Bhima, because that person is nowhere inside the formation of the army or the technical. When you have that portfolio, he's not inside the portfolio at all. He's just an actor. When you take the personality of Bhima, he doesn't think. He just goes, does the works and come back. Whatever you tell, he'll do. He never thinks. And he never feels. And here it clearly shows that the way Duryodhana is thinking, Bhima as a person who will be a hindrance for winning. Or who will be his hindrance for winning. So with this, I think I will end for today. So if you have any other clarifications you want to ask, I'm open for any kind of questions.
So how does
So,
this
Abhita,
last?
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. You
Yeah.
finish.
Okay. Yeah. So just wanted to understand how this last shloka, it reflects in our own life. Like, just can you give me one example?
See, this is just to analyze properly. When you are analyzing on the other side properly, your side also you analyze properly. Or when you analyze your side properly, even be rational in both ends. Don't be irrational don't be driven by emotions in one analysis, and don't be totally technical in one analysis. See, this side he had the reason to say Bhishma as the protector of their army, because he is the commander in chief, and commander in chief is the head of the army. That's why this army is protected by this. But here he says that their army is protected by Bhima, which is not a rational what to say the statement, but it is
Comparison,
a
yeah.
statement. Statement or comparison is out of his jealousy or his feeling towards Bhima. He just thinks that Bhima is the only person who cannot make him win, or he is the only hindrance. That point shows us, like when you are in that point of thinking, right, you will not really think out of the box, or you will not think correctly,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because
shouldn't
you're
we
just
think the main hindrance what we have in our lives, when there is something which is stopping you to win, first we have to attack that only, right? That fear or that hurdle. If we clear that, then the path is clear for our victory.
see, Shubha, you're in the software only, right? Saying an example, you develop a program, and then when you have a bug, you get one bug, and you just focus on that bug without thinking on any other thing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Will you
Okay.
be able to fix any other thing if it comes? Because your idea or your thinking is just subjected to this. You're not even thinking logically whether you might have a lot of upstreams, downstreams, lot of dependencies. You might not have think that this could be because your focus is only one problem, the problem that you faced now.
Okay.
So that will stop you from thinking better, because he just has no other thinking except Bhima.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need to understand from here, or the takeaway from here.
Okay. Yeah.
So any
Yes,
other?
and Suma, you can go ahead now. Sorry.
Yeah. So for me, I have and like whatever I wanted to share in this session is done. So it's open for questions. If not, we can end the session for today.
Okay. So,
Abhita, yeah,
Yeah,
I have one question. You gave
yeah,
the example of
understanding our
Mahatma Gandhi
strengths and
and
staying calm is very important.
yeah,
Yeah, please go
yeah,
ahead. I was
Vanita.
just trying to summarize what I understood. You go ahead.
okay. Yeah, Abhita, you said about Mahatma Gandhi and Hitler, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But today we don't have any such leaders in life to follow and all,
See,
right?
this is
So,
externalization, Vanita. What I told is to apply internally. When you are doing anything, you ask yourself whether you are doing it for a goal, meaning that it could be your goal could be your health, your goal could be your personal happiness. So when you
oh,
apply
okay.
internally, are you doing that action selfishly for yourself, or are you doing the action for a goal? Is it a goal oriented thing, or is it a pleasure oriented thing? When we say selfish, it is pleasure oriented. You're just doing it for yourself, and the benefit comes only to you. In the
Yeah,
same way, I say the example of eating an ice cream and eating a healthy food. One satisfies the mind, but you both are eating only, but still eating healthy food is for you are doing that based upon a goal of getting good health.
okay.
So
So
the thing
it's
is,
up to
yeah,
me. That's what you're saying, right? For example, see, I can say like giving up my career so that I take care of my kids. Then, if I take that as my goal, then I should not worry about it,
yeah.
right? Giving
See,
up the
choice
career.
is ours from
Suppose,
the first class. Whatever I'm telling is choice
mm,
is yours. Choice has
yeah, yeah.
consequences. But your choice
Okay,
and everything, what is the intent of doing that thing? Is it a selfish intent? Is it an unselfish intent, or it is selfless intent? What is the intention with which you are doing your action? And 90% of the times, if your action is goal oriented or it is driven by a motive, That it could be personal motive. Motive means I'm not saying it should be for others. It could be a personal motive as well. It could be a personal goal. It could be a personal ideal. When you drive actions towards that direction, you will sustain your happiness. Your happiness will not go down so easily.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say in that.
Okay, Abhita.
Yeah. So any other questions?
So are there orders for, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, Abhita, sometimes we don't realize the strength and the weakness. We keep forgetting or something. So how to like make sure like we keep reminding ourselves this is our strength, this is our weakness, and many times because we don't realize our strength and weakness, right, we lose the opportunities as well.
Yeah.
So
first thing is to be self-aware. You need to be aware of yourselves, and if you are in a mode that you say that you forget about it, make it a habit to write it. The thing is just practice. If you forget a spelling, what will you do? You will write it again and again, read it again and again. So make it to such a level that you will not forget it.
okay.
See, it's not like forgetting. You don't use it for a long time. It just lays there aside. So you have to bring it back, and it's your own effort to bring it back.
And many
In
times
this
we don't
busy world,
opportunities also what we get to it. Only when we miss the opportunity, right, then we will realize, oh, I missed this.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying from tomorrow start this SWOT analysis for each and everything you do. Then you will have your strengths on your fingertips. Just apply for 2 things in your daily life and see how things changes and how self-motivated you will be by yourself.
Okay.
See, it's an effort that you have to put to yourself.
so how to understand what are our strengths? If we are unaware what are our real strengths, in this busy life, we are so stuck with the kids, husband, job, and everything. We just follow the herd. That's it. What is happening? We do what we are supposed to do and what we have to do. But what we want to do, what we have to do,
give it a shot. Give it a shot. See, you are able to succeed. If you succeed, it becomes your strength.
Okay.
See,
strength
the thing
means
is,
okay.
Yeah.
And strength means how? I mean, what kind of strength? Being patient, is that a strength?
In both ways, it depends upon a situation. Being patient again is like a thing that depends upon both the situation. This SWOT analysis came up from the business perspective. So when we have to apply it to our day-to-day things, the strengths actually sees your abilities. What is your ability? Being patient at the times it needed and being impatient at the times it needed is your ability. Like you cannot be patient at all times because you're not dealing with the same people. Every people, the way they treat you or the way they react and respond to you changes your way you respond and react to them.
Okay.
So it could be a strength when you use it for a person. It could not be a strength when you use it for a person. And again, it again depends upon, because we deal with persons, it's a very complicated thing. And what works for you, what is your strength for you, contemplate yourself and try to identify, because no one else can identify, because you know the situation, you know the things, you know what went right, what went wrong, what could have gone right, what could have gone wrong. Analyze yourself honestly. Don't go with any bias, because we are not showing this to the rest of the world. We are trying this to improve ourselves. Be honest. Do an honest introspection of yourself. That's when you can be a better you.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
No, Abhita, actually we do this, suppose in office, I know, like if somebody says please do this, then we do this SWOT analysis. Like I know how much impact, how much is the effort, what is the risk, this. Suppose, but you mean to say that tomorrow my child is saying, Mama, I want this toy. You want me all to apply the same SWOT there, like if I buy the toy, what is the strength, what is the weakness, how much? So you want me to apply the same SWOT in whatever decision I take in my day-to-day personal life?
See, this can be applied to any kind of actions. It depends upon whether, if you want to apply it in everything, we cannot have time. So you can actually take a thing that you are totally attacking one or two challenging things of your day. See, this is
Okay.
see for buying a toy for a child is not a challenging task for you. And this analysis comes into play when you have to do a risk calculation, risk assessment, when you are doing anything
Okay.
new. That's when we use in our projects as well, right?
Yes.
Day-to-day activities, even in the project, you don't do SWOT for each and every work you do. If you know, if I give you a query to write, you will just write it and will you do a SWOT analysis for the query that I tell you to write?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You
that's what I'm
want to
saying.
apply
This-
when you want to apply this. You mean to say that you want us to apply when we find any challenges?
Yeah,
Is
when
it?
you are taking up a new task or when you find yourself that you're not able, you feel yourself that you will not be able to do that thing, then analyze yourself.
Okay.
See, when you have confidence to do that, there is actually not need of analysis because you are self-confident. You are motivated to do that thing. But at any point of time, if you are in a situation where you feel, I cannot take up this work, okay, I feel I cannot do this, then analyze yourself. What is the situation?
Okay.
What strengths I have? What could be the things that will not stop me from doing it? It could be a personal relationship, whatever it is. So whenever you meet a challenge or whenever you are doing a new thing, try to apply this and see. And why I'm saying to apply daily at least once or twice is now actually Bindu said she forgot totally what are her strengths and weaknesses, and only when she misses the opportunities she'll comes to know. The daily habituation of this will actually make you into a mode that you know yourself better than anyone else. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything else?
Yeah, I think it's a good session.
Yeah, thanks for asking a lot of questions.
Thank you, Abhita.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Okay, good night everyone. See you next week.